woodworker whose chairs rock to a folksy tune. A stained glass artist who sets a room aglow with amber waves. And watch a potter fire a vase in an ancient lava flow. It's all ahead on Modern Masters. Chairmaker Greg Harkins takes time to appreciate the flowers on the way to his workshop for another unhurried day in Vaughn, Mississippi. His family has lived in central Mississippi for 6 generations. Greg's chairs are an extension of his roots and his memories.
You know, it was the 8 or 10 chairs that were across my grandmother's front porch. And she had stories about where they all came from and what trees they came off of and what they did with the rest of the tree.
Greg heard the stories repeated so many times, they became a part of him. In college, he earned a degree in psychology. While waiting to go on to graduate school, he whiled away some time doing odd jobs for local chair makers.
I was turning parts, and I remember stopping and I was kind of thumbing my chisel to see how sharp it was, you know, like that. And I thought, doggone, I have missed graduate school. You know, it's 3 years. I'd been there for 3.5 years.
He decided it was time to get a practical job, so he went to nearby Jackson and found work as a cook. That lasted about a year. Greg missed the freedom of a chairmaker's shop.
I was free to do what I wanted to work as many hours as I wanted, to play as long as I wanted, whatever.
So Greg returned home to become a chairmaker's apprentice, gladly joining a tradition he can trace back as far as his family's history in Mississippi.
You can trace my chairmaking back to 1840. You know, I learned from Tommy Bell. Tommy Bell learned from the Blaylocks. The Blaylocks learned from Mr. Spruill. Mr. Spruill learned from Mr. Rouse, and Mr. Rouse came from Germany.
During 30 years of chairmaking, Greg's chairs have become famous. In 1980, he gave a rocker to future President Ronald Reagan at the Neshoba County Fair. Mr. Reagan shared the seat with his wife, Nancy, in a photo seen around the world.
About 2 weeks, I guess it was, later, Ms. Reagan called up and talked to my mother, and she said that she didn't want the next president sitting in her chair all the time, and that she wanted to know if she could, could buy another chair.
Soon everyone wanted a Greg Harkins chair, including President Clinton, Oprah Winfrey, and Bob Hope. This morning, he's making a rocking chair out of local bodock wood. This extremely hard wood requires the utmost of Greg's concentration and strength as he turns the front rung and post on a lathe.
Bodock is so miserably hard, and it has a real twisty kind of grain to it that it wants to grab the chisel and tear out pieces of wood, and I've had it take the chisel out of my hand before.
In a way, this curving pattern is Greg's signature. In country tradition, each chairmaker turns his own pattern, and it's poor etiquette to copy another man's design.
Some of the patterns of different men that I worked for, I would take and turn backwards. You know, where their part went in, my part went out.
After they're shaped, the posts need mortises, holes where he can insert the other parts. The horizontal mortise machine cuts a slot for the headrest, while the belly punch drill makes round holes. Because bodock is so hard, the drill tends to make slightly crooked holes. But once he connects the parts, resistance will hold them together. Greg uses a time-honored technique called shrink fitting, combining freshly cut wood and dry wood for a stronger chair.
The vertical pieces are green, The horizontal pieces are dry. This green post will dry down around the dry parts to a point that you can't knock it apart with a hammer.
When the frame is finished, Greg and apprentice Hiram Creekmore weave the hickory bark bottom and back. The bark has been soaking in water to keep it pliable, and they must work quickly to finish before it gets too dry. Greg's chair is almost finished.
I see this piece of furniture from the time it's a living, breathing tree until it's a finished piece of furniture.
The finished chair will age gracefully from yellow to a dark caramel. And generations from now, it will still glow with the passion Greg put into it.
What makes me passionate about it is just the very history of what I do, you know, where I live and how I live and what my life is all about.
At first glance, Greg Harkins' chairs tell a story of hard work and simple living. But take a closer look, or sit for a spell, and it becomes clear that simple living can be an art.